Hello. Ham House on the banks of the River Thames, just south of Richmond, now in the care of the National Trust, described by them as the most complete survival of 17th century fashion and power in Europe, is a good example of the increasing formality in English country houses from the end of the 17th century, and the sharper separation between upstairs and downstairs. This is a view of the north front, with an 18th century codestone sculpture of Father Thames by John Bacon, whose work can be seen in St Paul's Cathedral, Westminster Abbey and Bath Abbey amongst other places. Originally an H-plan house built in 1610 for Sir Thomas Vavasour, soldier, courtier and Member of Parliament, it was leased in 1626 by William Murray, who grew up and was educated alongside the future Charles I and acted as the prince's whipping boy, taking any punishment from their tutors on Charles' behalf. The two boys became friends, and William prospered when Charles became king. At Ham, he employed craftspeople who had worked on Whitehall Palace. At the start of the Civil War, he wisely transferred the lease into his wife's name. Ham House eventually passed to his eldest daughter, Elizabeth. As Duke and Duchess of Lauderdale, she and her second husband, John Maitland, acquired the freehold to Ham House in 1671 and set about remodelling. Elizabeth was a regular at court and something of a fashion icon. A contemporary described her as of great beauty and amazing vivacity in conversation, but restless in her ambition, profuse in her expense, and in most ravenous covetousness. On the south side of the house, a courtyard between the arms of the original H-plan design was filled in by the addition of a new range of rooms, including, on the ground floor, a withdrawing room, dining room and dressing room for the Duke, and on the first floor, a suite of apartments designed for a stay by the Queen, Catherine of Braganza. The remodelling included a library, now the oldest surviving English country house library, in the sense of a room dedicated to books rather than simply a collection. An inventory of the contents of Bess of Hardwick's Hardwick Hall in 1601 recorded just 6 books. A contemporary, Vincent Mundy of Markeaton Hall in Derby, owned only 15 books. A library wasn't added at Chatsworth House until around 1700. It now takes up 6 rooms. As literacy increased, book collections became larger and required a dedicated library, and along with the library came the new post of librarian. As with the senior roles of governess or tutor, the job of librarian might be filled by a member of the minor gentry in need of an income. The library at Ham House has a connected small room for private study, known as a closet. Essentially, a closet was a personal space intended for individual use, typically equipped with a window for natural light, a desk and chair, and possibly a fireplace. Larger houses, as at Ham, had separate his and hers closets for the lord and lady, and at Ham there were also closets attached to the library, the Queen's apartments, and leading off the long gallery, another closet, the Green Closet, for more personal viewing of works of art. Private retreats known as closets or cabinets began to appear in country houses in the late Tudor period. By the close of the 17th century they were commonplace. An architectural manual of 1660 declared, "All principal upstairs rooms must have a closet to allow proper communion with God." The introduction to the King James Bible, the authorised version of 1611, urges true Christians withdraw to your closet twice a day for prayer and religious meditation. Tracts were published providing templates for self-examination, what were known as closet duties. A list of questions, including, for example, how devoutly did I pray this morning? In 1676, Tixall-born Edward Wetnall published a manual entitled Enter into thy closet, a method and order for private devotion. Samuel Pepys recorded a visit to the Whitehall Palace closet of Charles II in his diary. Such variety of pictures and other things of value and rarity that I was properly confounded and enjoyed no pleasure in the sight of them. Charles regularly held meetings with his inner circle of advisers in his closet, known as the King's Cabinet. This is the forerunner of today's Prime Minister's Cabinet. Disappearing into one's closet for some me time became part of life's daily rhythm. Inevitably, because the space was private, intimate, and ideally lockable from inside, closets were used for purposes other than religious meditation. They served for general reading, looking at pictures, writing letters, and for the safekeeping of personal items. In the days before central heating, these small rooms would potentially have been the cosiest during winter months. The little castle at Bolsover in Derbyshire, begun around 1608 by Charles Cavendish, a country house built in the style of a Norman keep, a kind of medieval castle fantasy designed for pleasure and comfort rather than defence, has 5 closets, including the marble closet on the first floor, designed for William Cavendish by John Smithson, which contains rather risque paintings personifying some of the classical virtues engaged in various frolics. The missing virtues may have been removed to allow for a window to be inserted. One wonders what Sir William contemplated as he sat here. His second wife, Margaret, widely known as Mad Madge, wrote a biography of her husband, and a frontispiece shows her in her closet in the act of writing. With the provision of servants' quarters, call bell systems, dumb waiters and back stairs, the gentry were able to enjoy more privacy in their homes. Closets went out of fashion, replaced by studies. During the 19th century, libraries became informal sitting rooms in the daytime and drawing rooms for the gentlemen of the house in the evening. Next time, I'm going to take a look at how the role of footman evolved. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can subscribe by clicking on the rose window over my shoulder.